Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 episode number 100 based on novel. So let's start. The ancient country of Yangfeng, the capital of Chu. Finally, I'm not poor anymore. Luo Feng was in a good mood as he stood in the guest cave. Before exploring the dream realm, he was indeed a bit poor. The guest official's merits were very few, and as for the cosmic sand, the value of the cosmic sand was too low. The 300 billion cosmic sand that the Chaos Realm Transcendent Lord of the Wild Wind of the Thunder Ancient Country used to redeem himself were only equivalent to 1,000,000 merits. The tens of thousands of reward points in the treasure land, infinite space, are indeed precious, but Luo Feng kept these reward points to exchange for the special inheritance of the second level of the God King. After all, although resources are important, special inheritance is more important. It is too difficult to obtain reward points in infinite space, and every expenditure must be cautious. More than 80 million merits are enough for me to be extravagant. Luo Feng immediately left the cave and went directly to the Emperor Chu Palace to pay homage to his master. In the Emperor Chu Palace, Emperor Chu was practicing attentively, and a dark giant shadow appeared and descended, emitting endless destruction. It is too difficult to comprehend the complete origin of destruction. Emperor Chu opened his eyes. He had been through too much suffering. He always felt that he was just a little bit away, but this little bit would always block him. He was different from those who practiced the chaotic origin bloodline. Emperor Chu used treasures to practice the ultimate realm life form. He was not affected by the will of the bloodline. He could stay absolutely awake to comprehend the great Tao. I have comprehended 5 ultimate realm secrets so far, and my accumulation is deep enough. Emperor Chu thought, among the emperors, I can rank in the top 5. But I just can't break through. Only by mastering the complete Great Tao can we continue to stay in the origin continent in the next era. Emperor Chu understood this. The threshold to leave the origin continent is the ultimate realm life form. Even if the origin continent is destroyed, they can continue to live in the outside world. But leaving the origin continent without the protection of the hometown source world, the living environment will be thousands of times worse. The environment of the ancestors of the two countries is so difficult and harsh. Only by staying in the origin continent and resisting the destruction and rebirth of the origin continent can they be recognized as native life of the new era by the supreme rules of the origin continent. But to withstand the destruction and rebirth of the origin world, one must comprehend a complete avenue. Therefore, in the last era, only the ancestors of the East Pole domain and the two countries lived to this era. Some of those who relied on external forces to cultivate into ultimate life forms are still alive, but they have long left the origin continent. The protection of the hometown origin world is very important, and the complete avenue must be comprehended. Emperor Chu also has ambitions. The royal gods of the two ancient countries all have desires. The first step they desire is to become an emperor or monarch. On the one hand, they are eligible to leave the origin continent and live a long time. On the other hand, their strength and status will be improved, and they can obtain more resources. The second step is to master the complete avenue. In this era of the two ancient countries, only Emperor Qing can do it. Emperor Fu did not hesitate to reincarnate and give up the blood of the source of chaos to practice cultivation, also in order to achieve his goal. Emperor Chu looked outside, and his disciple Luo Feng had arrived at the door of the hall. Master. Luo Feng saluted respectfully outside. Come in. Emperor Chu smiled. He was very satisfied with his disciple Luo Feng. The first level of the Divine King had outstanding achievements that surpassed history. He was looking forward to his disciple's future achievements. The disciple was strong, and maybe he could help him as a master. Luo Feng immediately stepped into the hall. I heard that you recently established a sect, Daohe sect, Di Chu said with a smile. To give ordinary practitioners more opportunities to practice. Luo Feng said. He really didn't care. At his level, what good would it do to him even if the sect became stronger? Even if it was great, what would it do to cultivate 3 or 5 god kings? Luo Feng himself could easily differentiate into hundreds of powerful clones. This is the way of practice. The stronger the strength, the less meaning there are weak ones. Master, I came here today to ask if there is any way to buy the 5-color treasure medicine. Luo Feng said. 5-color treasure medicine? Di Chu's eyes lit up and smiled. I used this 5-color treasure medicine before, and the effect was very good. A portion of 5-color treasure medicine is worth 10 million merits. Can you afford it now? The disciple has been practicing for a short time. How can he accumulate such wealth? I haven't made many merits as a guest official. Luo Feng said, but I did get some treasures by chance, which can be exchanged. It's a small matter. I can buy them for you. Di Chu said, but the royal family also has rules. The royal family must use the treasures they exchange for themselves. If they exchange them for trading with the outside world, the exchange price is the same as the guest exchange price. This is also to prevent the royal family gods from emptying the treasury. Luo Feng nodded. As long as there is a price difference, the royal family gods can make a lot of money as dealers. Obviously, the two ancient countries have long blocked this possibility. The number of 5-color precious medicines is scarce. I can buy 2 for you at most. Di Chu said, each one is also 10 million merits. Thank you, Master. Luo Feng was overjoyed. A guest elder could only redeem a treasure of this level, the 5-colored precious medicine, once in his lifetime, and he had to make sufficient contributions. As the emperor, Di Chu could only buy 2 at most. If it were in the outside world, Luo Feng would have paid a much higher price. This 5-colored precious medicine is made from the heart of a realm beast that surpasses the God King level and other materials. Once taken, it is as if you have become part of the great Tao of destruction, which greatly helps your cultivation. Di Chu said. A boundary beast that surpasses the God King level? Luo Feng was curious. On the origin continent, there is only the boundary beast in Qianmu Kingdom, and it is only at the ultimate level of the God King. Boundary beasts above the God King, of course they are not from our origin world. Di Chu did not hide it from Luo Feng. I also asked the ancestor at the beginning, and the ancestor told me about this. It was a very powerful beast from another origin world. It has broken the limit of fate and cultivated to a level above the God King. But after leaving the origin world, it is not easy to practice, so they used their own hearts and some materials to refine the 5-colored treasure medicine. The ancestor also bought some and kept them in the royal family. Di Chu said, for that boundary beast, the heart is used to refine medicine, and it can be refined back after a little time. Luo Feng was surprised. Is it the 5-color precious medicine refined by the world beast itself? How difficult is it to kill a world beast that exceeds the God King level and ensure that the body is intact? After paying such a high price, even if you refine the precious medicine, it will be your turn. Di Chu laughed. That world beast refined it by itself, and it refined it in large quantities and sold it to the ancestors. Luo Feng nodded. That world beast is not simple either. It has broken the limit of fate and become above the God King, but it still has to use itself to refine medicine. The body of the world beast is very special, and it is incomparably compatible with the great Tao of destruction origin. It is also a powerful world beast. The more valuable the body material is. Di Chu said. The heart, blood, and bones of the world beast above the God King can all be refined into treasures to assist in cultivation. In fact, the 5-color precious medicine is only the best auxiliary treasure to destroy the origin of the road. Emperor Chu said, there are better auxiliary treasures. I have used them before. Better? Luo Feng's heart moved. Boundary beast blood talisman. Di Chu said it was also personally refined by the senior boundary beast above the God King, and it was refined with his own blood. One talisman requires 100 million merits. Once used, it can temporarily condense into a complete destruction origin avenue in the body for a period of time. One talisman can last for about 3 epochs. Luo Feng was surprised. You prepare a treasure worth 100 million merits, and I will buy you one. Di Chu smiled and said, I practice the destruction origin avenue, so I am eligible to exchange for another one. Okay. Luo Feng nodded. I know your master, the best auxiliary treasure for the Destruction Origin Avenue is this. Dichu said, want something better? I guess you have to find the ancestor. It's already very good. Luo Feng was very excited. Before this, he didn't even know about the Boundary Beast Blood Talisman. Everyone says I'm not good at teaching my disciples. Dichu looked at Luo Feng. I know myself well and I'm not good at teaching people. Luo Feng, you can be the absolute number one in the Chaos Realm Transcendent and the absolute number one in the first level of the Divine King Realm. I didn't teach you anything. It's because you have a high talent. As your master, all I can do is to help you with resources as much as possible. Dichu said, of course, you still need to provide the treasures yourself. I'm also a poor master. Luo Feng smiled. You need these treasures for the Great Tao of Destruction Origin. What about the Great Tao of Life Origin and the Great Tao of Material Origin? Dichu asked, what treasures do you need? Is there anything I can help you with? Luo Feng was very moved. Because he can face the complete Great Tao of Life Origin at all times, Luo Feng has indeed gone a lot further on this road than the Great Tao of Destruction Origin, and has long begun to try to merge the branches of the Great Tao. Master, I also need the life material of 24 phases. Luo Feng said, I don't need much, just a little flesh and blood, and scales. Is there any way to buy it? 24 phases? Dichu frowned slightly. 24 phases is one of the many forms that appear after the origin of life reaches the ultimate. This form is very special. Luo Feng listened. The Hunyuan bloodline life cultivated in the origin continent has very powerful life forms. Emperor Chu said. Although their intelligence is relatively low, the Hunyuan bloodline life at the Chaos Realm level is also the thinnest bloodline, and can appear in the 10 Directions world life form. Luo Feng nodded, guarded Xiangjie City by himself, and collected some materials. As for the Hunyuan bloodline creatures with more concentrated blood, the first level of the Divine King, I have never heard of 24 phases. Emperor Chu said. There are very few at the second level of the Divine King with 24 phases. The Hunyuan bloodline creatures at the ultimate Divine King have extremely powerful life forms, and many of them are beyond the 24 phases. As for above the Divine King? That is the real Hunyuan life, an existence that jumps out of the cage. Emperor Chu said. Luo Feng nodded. The general characteristics of Hunyuan bloodline creatures are extremely high life essence, low intelligence, and low realm, which also makes them only able to exert very little physical potential. The true origin life above the God King is clearly an existence that has jumped out of the cage. The power that can be exerted may not necessarily be as good as the ancestors of the two countries. The ultimate origin blood creature of the God King, the two ancient countries are strictly guarding and absolutely not passing it on. Dichu looked at Luo Feng, because extracting their blood makes it easier to become an emperor or monarch. Unless you have a treasure that makes the ancestors tempted, and let the ancestors make an exception for you. Dichu said, we emperors and monarchs have no right to give it to you, not even a drop of blood. Luo Feng understood. The second level of the God King's origin blood creature is theoretically the best origin blood for a guest official to obtain. Dichu said, the threshold is also very high. I only need a few materials. Luo Feng said. I will help you find a way and see what it will cost to get some materials. Emperor Chu said, but I advise you to start with the Thunder Ancient Country. In terms of cultivating Hunyuan bloodline creatures, the Thunder Ancient Country is better than our Flame Wind Ancient Country. They have more, and it is easier to obtain them. Luo Feng nodded, Master, how much do you think it would cost to buy some materials for the 24 life forms? This form of life is extremely valuable. A complete bloodline that has been refined requires 1 billion merits to be exchanged by a guest from the ancient Flame Wind country. Emperor Chu said, as for a small amount of materials? Generally, they are not sold in small quantities. Even the ancient Thunder country will not sell them in small quantities. Luo Feng said, I don't need to extract the complete bloodline, what I need is to comprehend the life form. Just give me part of the corpse, is that okay? One complete corpse can be used to extract 3 to 5 complete bloodlines, depending on the extraction capacity. Dichu said, if you don't need to extract, I can directly sell you 1/3 of the corpse, saving the cost of extraction. Luo Feng understood. A creature with 24 life forms of the Hunyuan bloodline, 1/3 of the corpse, 1 billion merits. It is extremely difficult for the Lord of Qiankun and the Lord of Sha to accumulate treasures and accumulate 10 billion merits. Because if you take risks again and again, you may fail one time, and your real body will die, which will cause a lot of losses. 100 billion merits is too high, it is the highest level that the guest god king can exchange. Emperor Chu said, in the ancient country of thunder, only 600 million merits are needed, which is much cheaper. I understand. Luo Feng nodded and smiled, it's very far away for me, and I can't afford it for the time being. These materials are very important to Luo Feng. Without these materials, Luo Feng can only construct the 24 phases of life form with divine power, and the power is too much worse. If you get the materials, peek into its essence, and transform it into invisible and formless, you can have the body of the second-level God King Hunyuan bloodline creature. Those Hunyuan bloodline creatures have not exerted the true potential of their flesh. In Luo Feng's hands, they understand the essence of the flesh life form and can naturally fully exert their potential. The strength of the flesh, even if it is inferior to the ultimate life form, is not far behind. I now have 24 phases, and I haven't even figured out the first phase. Don't worry. Luo Feng was also patient. You must understand the essence, and only when you are invisible and formless can you change, and there is a limitation to invisible and formless. When Luo Feng became the God King, he merged into the supreme rule. He understood that invisible and formless can only change the matter born in the origin world. If it exceeds the scope of the operation of the supreme rule, invisible and formless cannot change. And these Hunyuan blood creatures are the two ancient countries that diluted the blood of the real Hunyuan life in the blood of the origin continent from generation to generation, and reproduced and cultivated creatures. They are indeed native creatures of the origin continent. These are 2 packages of 5-colored precious medicines. Keep them quickly. Emperor Chu suddenly stretched out his hand, and 2 black bottles appeared in his hand, with liquid rippling inside. I haven't prepared the treasure worth 20 million merits yet. Luo Feng was also surprised at how fast his master acted. Just give it to me when you're ready. Di Chu said indifferently. Luo Feng took it immediately. You have many clones. I remind you that when you take the 5-colored precious medicine, you must use your real body to take it. Emperor Chu said, if a weak clone takes it, then the precious medicine will affect that weak clone. I understand. Luo Feng nodded. You've been a God King for so long, but you haven't received the second-level inheritance of the God King realm of 72 cutting swords and 8 tribulations life form? Dichu asked, because this was what he promised to give to Luo Feng. Once Luo Feng receives it, Dichu's credit will be automatically deducted. Emperor Chu naturally knew that Luo Feng had never gone to claim the inheritance. I know you went to the infinite space, because in the infinite space treasure house, you saw better special inheritances, and even perfect inheritances. For the time being, you are not in urgent need of 72 cutting blades and 8 tribulations life forms. Emperor Chu shook his head and said, but the higher the inheritance, the better, because the higher the level, the higher the difficulty of cultivation. And more importantly, the higher the level of inheritance, the more expensive the reward points required in the infinite space treasure house. You can redeem the special inheritance of the first level of God King, but the second level of God King requires about 3,000 reward points, and the ultimate level requires about 60,000 reward points. It is very difficult to gain reward points in an infinite space. Even if you open up a new path and a new road to reach the first level of God King, it will only reward 10,000 reward points. Emperor Chu sighed, the ultimate level of the special inheritance can be seen, but how many people can afford to redeem it? Luo Feng immediately understood a lot of information. Open a branch of the avenue and get 10,000 bonus points. His body was in the chaos realm, his mind and will had reached the ultimate realm of the God King, and he had also received 10,000 reward points. However, to redeem the ultimate level of a special inheritance, about 60,000 reward points are required. Superior inheritance is easier to obtain. Emperor Chu said, at least it is a clear path to the ultimate realm. Disciple understands. I will go and receive the 2 inheritances right away. Luo Feng replied. On that day, Luo Feng first went to the inheritance hall to receive the 2nd level of the God King chapter of 72 Swords of Destruction and 8 Tribulations life form, and also gave some treasures worth 20 million merits to his master. Emperor Chu could tell at a glance that these treasures came from the dream realm. He just smiled and said nothing. Huyang City, the quiet room in the city lord's mansion. Inside the Star Tower. 5-color precious medicine. Luo Feng's perfect divine body looked at the black bottle in front of him. His perfect divine body had long been restored to its full state, and he was planning to take the precious medicine with his perfect divine body. Come and see how powerful this precious medicine made from the heart of a world beast above the God King is. Luo Feng pulled out the cork and poured it directly into his mouth. Wow! When the liquid in the black bottle flowed out, it was emitting 5-colored lights, and the phantom of the world beast was faintly visible. It was a figure that was 7 points similar to Morosa's real body. All the precious liquid went into his throat. Luo Feng's face changed as soon as it entered his throat. Boom boom tilde tilde tilde. It was as if a huge universe exploded inside his body, an endless terrifying power instantly swept through his entire body and even merged into his soul. This? Luo Feng was extremely shocked. He seldom took external objects on his cultivation path, and not even a single one at the 5-colored precious medicine level. Now Luo Feng understood. This 5-colored precious medicine is totally worth buying. You bought the right thing. This precious medicine was bought by the right person. I'm not the same anymore. Luo Feng could clearly feel that a mysterious vein had appeared inside his perfect divine body. This vein was like a new structure which transformed the perfect divine body. In terms of strength and speed, the increase was only 50% to 60%, which was far less than the effect of the world life form. However, when this layer of veins was added to the perfect divine body, Luo Feng felt that he had changed. Boom tilde tilde tilde. Luo Feng stretched out his hand and flicked it gently. Countless secret patterns of laws emerged, and the mystery of the origin of destruction moved naturally with him. This world is too dirty, and the source world is too tired. It needs to be cleaned up. At this moment, Luo Feng could even feel an instinctive desire. We need to clean up the source world. There are too many weak lives. The more there are, the less they can grow. By reducing their numbers on a large scale, weak lives can get more resources and more nourishment from the heaven and earth, and become more elite and excellent. What am I thinking about? Luo Feng's mind and will were strong after all, and he realized something was wrong instantly. My soul has also been affected by the power of the 5-colored precious medicine. Luo Feng noticed that there was also a mysterious rune structure in his soul, which was maintained by the power of the 5-colored precious medicine. Luo Feng's soul was perfectly aligned with the origin of destruction. Every move he made would naturally trigger the origin of destruction. Wonderful. From my body to my soul, everything has become in perfect harmony with the path of destruction, and it even gives me the instinct to clean up the world. However, as long as my will is strong enough, I can still suppress those instincts, Luo Feng thought. At this moment, Luo Feng also understood why the world beast wanted to cause a catastrophe and destroy all lives. The world beasts were born from the origin of destruction. They were much more compatible with my current state than mine. For them, cleaning the world had long been integrated into their souls. Only soul enslavement can suppress the instincts of world beasts. Am I now in a weakened version of the world beast state? Luo Feng stopped thinking about it and began to concentrate on practicing. Because he could feel that no matter the veins in his body or the rune structure in his soul, they were all maintained by the power of the 5-colored precious medicine. Once it ended, this state would also end. Luo Feng first comprehended the secret method, 6 mixed whole strikes, in the special inheritance, mixed whole beast body, and he has already comprehended 3 of them. The first strike took the longest time, and because of the realization of the first strike, Luo Feng realized all 6 branches of the Great Way of Destruction. The second and third strikes were much faster. Isn't it simple? Because of the accumulation of the first 3 strikes, Luo Feng only needed to think about it for a moment, and he figured out the 4th, 5th, and 6th strikes in a moment. There was no hindrance at all. My understanding of the origin of destruction is too stupid. Destruction is not just destruction, it is also a kind of cleansing, a kind of rebirth. Luo Feng's understanding of the origin of destruction has changed. Once the perspective changes, the difficulty of comprehension is instantly reduced. Clean up the world, clean up everything. Just destroy the dirt. Then I will try to comprehend the strongest secret method that can be comprehended in theory at the first level of the Divine King, world unification, as recorded in the special inheritance mixed cave beast body. Luo Feng made the decision immediately. The origin of life, Luo Feng has been comprehending the 24 phases. After destroying the origin road, Luo Feng decided to comprehend the unification of the world. The world is one. Luo Feng immersed himself in it and began to study it, and a lot of insights flooded his mind. Luo Feng soon encountered various obstacles. He was in excellent condition at the moment and continued to break through the obstacles. To unify the world, one must first determine the foundation, then determine the 6 paths, and then use the 6 paths to work together perfectly to make everything unified. Luo Feng was comprehending the difficult secret method, but he also gradually understood the essence of the entire secret method. After understanding the essence, Luo Feng solved the problems step by step and began to lay the foundation. As time passed, Luo Feng kept a low profile and practiced in seclusion, not getting involved in the disputes on the origin continent. He cherished every day that was maintained by the 5-colored precious medicine. 3 centuries passed in the blink of an eye. Buzz. Inside the Star Tower. The power of the 5-colored precious medicine was finally exhausted, and the veins in Luo Feng's perfect divine body and the rune structure in his soul dissipated instantly. Luo Feng suddenly felt that the avenue of the origin of destruction had become much unfamiliar, and that feeling of being one with the universe was no longer there. That's all? Luo Feng felt a little disappointed. After getting used to being the Tao's pampered child, he naturally felt uncomfortable falling back into his previous perception of the Tao. In these 3 centuries, my understanding of the origin of destruction has really transformed. Luo Feng looked back on his gains in these 3 centuries and realized his own great progress. This video will end here.